Here's the secret of Into the Pit that everyone missed. How Oswald was tricked into unleashing something horrible and all too familiar. Welcome everybody, my name is Anderoff, and today I'm going to throw 3 big theories at you for Into the Pit, each a bit crazier than the last. And the first and tamest of these theories? That Into the Pit is fully canon and in continuity for the games. Yeah, that's our starting point, so buckle up. Before we begin, let's pull back from the super in-depth examinations we do here in the theory space, and do kind of a common sense Occam's razor reality check. If this is canon, and this is canon, and this, and this, and this, and even this, and this, how in the world would this not be canon? It's a Five Nights at Freddy's game on Steam. If your version of the narrative of FNAF can't accommodate an officially released game, it's not the game's canonicity that should be questioned. Luckily, I have answers that will alleviate the pressure on your headcanons, so fear not. Let's start with the big reasons why people argue that this game can't be game's canon. Time travel. Either it isn't possible in universe, or shouldn't be because this would suck for the narrative. I agree. Pit Trap Dad is weird and nonsensical and silly. Again, I agree. The MCI had 5 victims, not 6. We'll address it. You're right though. The origin of the game's development was something else. Yes, we'll talk about it. So, for those first 2, let's all agree that they didn't actually happen. There was not actual time travel or the selective possession of a dad by a cyborg bunny monster. That would be crazy, even for this franchise. No, even ignoring those 2 big concepts, there's a third, smaller thing that's equally impossible in this game. What is happening here? To the best of my knowledge, there's only one good explanation. Oswald is hallucinating. So either we're playing a game about a child experiencing the onset of a schizophrenic or extreme bipolar episode, or something external is causing hallucinations. I lean heavily towards it being external for many reasons, the most pertinent of which is we know of a substance in-universe that can cause hallucinations. Agony. At this moment, a third of you are groaning in exasperation, a third of you are shrugging in agreement, and a third of you are wondering what I'm talking about. All 3 groups should watch this quick primer on Agony. In the FNAF universe, Agony is basically the energy that comes from extreme negative emotions and has supernatural properties. What does it look like? Black goo, typically, but it can also just be metaphysically attached to objects that were near great suffering or tragedy. What can it do? Lots of crazy weird things in the books, but what we're focusing on today is its abilities to project hallucinations and memories. Have we seen it before in the games? We sure have. We just didn't know what we were seeing. Hallucinations caused by the energy of objects that were near great suffering, manifesting as viscous black goo, called
the agony of every tragedy, agony.
Oh, it's been there since nearly the beginning. And make no mistake, it's still playing an important part in the latest parts of the timeline. So what Oswald experiences as time travel and endoskeletons appearing at school and his dad being replaced by Pit Trap, these are simply the agony within Jeff's pizza, manifesting powerful hallucinations in Oswald's mind after he spent an entire summer there, absorbing all the residual suffering and pain from a previous event. What event? Well, the game's first night would have you think it's the missing child incident, because we even see them, but it's not that. We'll get back to what it actually is a bit later, but this takes us to another argument against Into the Pit being canon. How many kids are shown in the MCI? In the original short story, it was 6 kids, and in the games, it's 5. So seeing 6 kids here seems to be a problem for canonicity. However, hallucinations are subjective. Just look at Pit Trap having sharp fangs when William Afton never did. No, this subjective vision of 6 kids isn't adding another kid to the MCI, it's doing what many other games have done, grouping Charlie with the 5 MCI victims. We see it in Help Wanted 2 with gravestones, we see it in Happiest Day in FNAF 3, heck, we even see it in a minigame within this game, 6 out of 5 party hats. No, the MCI is still 5 kids, but Charlie is forever connected to them. One last argument before we get to more interesting points. The origin of the game's development. People argue that Into the Pit isn't canon because it wasn't originally intended to be a mainstream project. It was originally planned as a niche release on Super Nintendo cartridges. And while that's true, that's not what ended up happening, which Scott explained on his recent interview with Dawko. More importantly, we know that many specific elements were cut from the final release version, including Easter eggs that were harmless to the gameplay and narrative of an isolated story. If this was just a fluff piece, a 10-year celebration tribute game with no bearing on the canon lore, why make all those cuts? No, it's canon. So that's the first level theory, that it's canon because it was all Agony hallucinations. Now, let's get weird. If the Agony in Jeff's Pizza wasn't from the MCI, what was it from? Not what, but who. And not was, but is. Oswald spends his whole summer within a few yards of William Afton, spring-locked in his suit, trapped in the safe room, having suffered in undeath for decades, oozing agony. Let's look at the evidence. First, the line that started this whole theory. This lady says that she can hear rats in the walls, and what if the cooks are rats? This struck me as odd, first because she's hypothesizing that rats are making noises in the walls, then immediately wondering if there are people in the building that are rats, linking the idea of people in the building with noises in the walls. Then I thought about where she was sitting, right about here on the map, and it got me thinking about that party room. That party room that doesn't exist in the present, but in the past has a keycard security system. That room that you can't see on camera, but can hear screams coming from. That room where we see the MCI kids lined up. That room that connects to a secret inner room that has representations of all of Afton's history and children and partner and inventions. That room that's the final goal of the game to access. This is it. This is the safe room where Afton was spring-locked, where he hid from the animatronics in order to ambush them night after night to rip them apart and harness their remnant. Wait, where do we get the keycard for this room? A giant pile of disassembled animatronics. Another piece of evidence is the fact that these hallucinations and memories are more from the perspective of Afton than of the MCI victims. That secret workshop has artifacts from Afton's life, both professional and personal. How would the kids know that? The animatronics aren't fun characters like kids would see them, but very clearly robots, often malfunctioning ones. Oswald hallucinates receiving a notebook full of animatronic schematics along with corporate notes and complaints, which little kids wouldn't have any exposure to. Why would their agony reflect those things? Animatronics are threats in this game. They're dangerous. More importantly, the three animatronics that are threats to the player are representations of the three other bullies who tormented Dave the Crying Child, showing that William thought of them as dangerous. That seemed like a loose connection between the original three and the bullies. What do you need to see human bullies literally turn into those exact animatronics? Oh wait. There you go. But why not Foxy? Foxy's largely missing from the whole game, and the clue to explain it is found where Foxy isn't missing. In this prize machine, you can find a Foxy mask next to exotic butters, symbolizing Mike. Is this showing that William didn't think of Mike as dangerous or evil the way he thought of the other bullies? Whatever it means, it certainly shows William thinking of Foxy, and thus Mike, as different from the others, not a target of his torment and hatred and agony. My guess is that because of all the trauma and abuse he's already inflicted on Mike throughout his life, William doesn't hang on to his anger at Mike's involvement in Dave's death, the way he might have with the other three bullies. Speaking of the bullies, the fact that Oswald hallucinates the pit trap monster capturing and possessing his father is interesting because there's evidence that his father was the Freddy Bro, one of those bullies. So if this is in fact Afton's agony lashing out, it kind of makes sense that it would lash out at the Freddy Bro and almost kind of steal his mundane life of fatherhood from him by possessing him, as William feels that the bullies killing Dave stole that experience from him. There's also a note in the sketch notebook that says, "Remember, the dark eyes are watching," which is ominous enough on its own, but if you wait long enough during stressful times in the game, you literally see eyes watching you play the game, and they appear to be Springtrap or Pit Trap's eyes. In the Rescue the Children arcade game, there are only 4 kids in the maze, only 4 kids that Springtrap is trying to get. If there were 5 kids killed in the MCI and these hallucinations were from their agony, wouldn't all 5 of them be represented? But then why would Afton's agony only focus on 4 kids being chased? Well, you can look at my last theory for specifics, but I believe William only intended to kill 4 children, and killed Cassidy out of necessity for getting to Jeremy, the last target. Cassidy truly was the one he should not have killed. So William was only trying to get 4 kids, thus in his agony hallucination of a game, Springtrap is only pursuing 4 kids. More proof that this is William's agony, this voice line of Pit Trap. Well, how has William ever suffered? This is referencing either the loss of his young children to animatronics or his own spring locking. The MCI victims wouldn't know about any of these events, so it makes sense that this is from William. Bonus note, this could be additional evidence for my previous theory about the missing siblings incident, since this line, "I will make you suffer just like I did," could be interpreted as William's justification for the MCI killings, making the bullies suffer just like he did by taking away a young family member. Anyways, speaking of audio evidence, here's perhaps the biggest one. We don't get official audio of the MCI. We get official canon audio of William being spring-locked. This is his agony. But there's more proof, so I'll keep it coming. In the security camera room, there are additional references and clues. Cam 1280 is a reference to Room 1280, a Fazbear Fright story about William Afton stuck in a hospital bed for years, comatose and unable to die. And the story ends with him finally leaving that room, with the help from a good Samaritan, then exploding with accumulated agony. Trapped in a room for years? Check. Agony? Check. Leaving the room? We'll get back to that. The mini-renas are reference to another Fazbear Fright story, Room for One More. And while it's not directly about William Afton, it does end with a guy's body being paralyzed by being filled with animatronics. Not the same as spring locking, but equally invasive and crippling. Finally, the smoking gun piece of evidence. Are you ready? When you go into the security office in the present, what is Jeff playing? That's right. Solitaire. A clear reference to the solitary confinement of William Afton in the safe room. Done.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
So that's theory level 2, that the source of agony in Jeff's pizza is William Afton, spring-locked and trapped in the safe room for decades, oozing agony. Ready for the final theory? First, if you've made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing. I'd like to continue making these videos, and you subscribing would be a big help for that. Alright, the final theory. The purpose of Into the Pit is to show how William Afton finally escapes the safe room, and it's because of Oswald. Let's recap what actually happens in the game. Oswald spends his entire summer in Jeff's pizza, within a stone's throw of William Afton's undead corpse. Oswald is slowly infected by the tremendous agony of the place, and begins hallucinating, starting with the sketches of the animatronics, then with the ball pit time travel visions, then hallucinating his dad being possessed by Pit Trap, and even seeing kids at school turn into machines. The first time he goes into the past, Pit Trap tries to get him to go right to the party room, aka the safe room where Springtrap is. But it's too overwhelming and scares Oswald away. Then over the next several nights, Oswald slowly builds his courage by saving hallucinatory kids, all while trying to rescue his dad. As this is happening, he's making real changes to Jeff's pizza amidst his hallucinations, breaking doors, fixing games, and unlocking rooms. Finally, he finds a key card to unlock a room that in the present isn't even visible. Then goes inside, goes into a connected room, completely filled with Afton's memories, and frees the person trapped there, who immediately leaves that room. Oswald runs to the ball pit, scuffles with the rabbit, gets actually truly hurt by it, then it gets caught in the net and passes out from exhaustion, because we see in the Jeff ending that it isn't actually dead. His dad actually sees the creature at this point, and they leave it there in the net. Jeff is also able to see the rabbit at this point, as we see in the Jeff ending. So here, at the end of the game, there's absolutely something real happening, unlike the rest of the game. So when Fazbear's Fright puts out the call for creepy relics of Freddy's Pizza, Jeff contacts them, and they come get Springtrap out of the net, taking him straight into FNAF 3. Crazy theory. Where's the evidence? Well, first, let's examine the timing of Into the Pit and FNAF 3. Game Theory did an excellent piece on Into the Pit that concludes that it likely takes place in 2012. With the commonly accepted year of FNAF 3 being 2013, this tracks that roughly a year before Springtrap appears in Fazbear's Fright attraction, he's released from the safe room and is discovered in the ball pit net by Jeff. This seems more feasible than Fazbear's Fright approaching Jeff and all the other current owners of previous Fazbear locations and asking if they could bust down some walls looking for safe rooms and finding Springtrap that way. There are also pieces from the Fazbear's Fright attraction that come directly from Jeff's Pizza, proving that Jeff supplied items to that attraction. These children's drawings from Jeff's are the same ones found in FNAF 3 here. And while cut content shouldn't be taken as solid proof, take a look at the original design of the security office at Jeff's Pizza in the present, compared to the FNAF 3 office. Same layout, and even a box of animatronic parts. Also remember that FNAF 3 was where we first witnessed the spring locking of Afton, and here in Into the Pit we get the true audio of it. They're making a deliberate connection between the two, and now we know why. Look also at the stains on the ground where Oswald is freeing what he believes to be his father. It looks like something sprayed out in multiple directions from someone there long ago and was never cleaned up. Side note, I think the cords and wires up here are giving us a rough date of when this is taking place. 9 p.m. on August 8th, 2012. The clock in Jeff's says 8 o'clock just before you go into the pit on the last night, and it wouldn't surprise me if Jeff is the kind of guy who always forgets to adjust for daylight savings time. This is roughly a week before the date shown on the school calendar, but it's in the ballpark and it confirms the year separately from game theory, so I'm going with it. So let's look at what Oswald actually achieves each night when he thinks he's rescuing these hallucinated kids. Night 1. Obtain a screwdriver for the express purpose of freeing someone immobilized in an animatronic suit. Night 2. Lure Jeff away from the kitchen so you can then lure Chica away from the kitchen. This parallel illustrates that the things you're doing in the past and present are versions of the same events. There's definitely a connection. Night 3. Find the hammer in the arcade and also free the trapped person who is in constant pain. Foreshadowing. Night 4. Use the hammer to crack open the freezer. Wait a minute. If things in the present are affected by things in the past, why is this freezer not broken in Night 5? Well, because in reality, Oswald didn't use the hammer on the freezer. He used it to break down the wooden planks of the false wall in front of the safe room. Night 5. Find a keycard in a pile of disassembled animatronics, unlock the safe room, free the person trapped inside. Each night was either making a preparation for freeing Afton or giving us thematic clues about what was actually happening. Oswald was duped by Agony hallucinations into freeing Springtrap. Springtrap emerges for the first time in years, sees one of the bullies that killed Dave, and begins attacking him viciously. Luckily, after years of being locked in place, he's severely weakened and exhausted, and Oswald is able to overcome him, albeit with a nasty wound on his arm. Springtrap is tangled in the net and gives into his exhaustion, collapsing. Later, Jeff sees the Springlock suit oozing agony and makes a note to clean it up eventually? Roughly a year later, Fazbear Entertainment approaches him asking for any Freddy's artifacts, and he gives them some nice drawings, some paper pals, and a goopy Springlock suit that just so happens to contain William Afton. One counter-argument I'll address here is that in FNAF 3, the phone dude acknowledges a lead on the safe rooms the day before acquiring Springtrap, which logically implies that they were in fact asking owners if they could bust down walls and found Springtrap that way. However, in the actual call where phone dude mentions finding Springtrap, he doesn't actually link it to the safe room. He just hastily mentions that they found one, leaving ambiguity and room for this theory. But what do you think? How far down the rabbit hole did I get you to go? Let me know in the comments, and look out for my next theory video, which will either be about the very beginning of Fazbear, or what we can look forward to in the post-Ruin era. Not sure which yet, but those are theories for another day. Take care.